The left is at it again. What do we have to do to convince people to not listen to these folks? Don't pay any attention to the politicians, to their media pals, or anyone else. They're always in this perpetual state of outrage, giving themselves an aneurysm. It's all manufactured. It's all totally fake. Last week, they dug up some past social media posts some 25-year-old kid put on Twitter a long time ago who used to work for Doge. They went to all their crony media people and they did maximum pressure campaign to try to force him to resign under death threats.
Because what is happening is a vanguard lawlessly seizing power. And it's the act of a president and his co-president breaking laws in every direction in order to fundamentally undo the constitutional order.
It's so, then NPR, yes, the partially government-funded NPR, they ran this headline. Oh, member of Elon's Doge team resigns after racist posts resurface. Let me be clear about how I feel about this. Look, this kid may have said something stupid or inconsiderate or whatever. I don't care. I just don't care anymore. Can he do his job? Apparently he can. So I don't care what he said on Twitter whenever he said it. I don't. And if the left thinks it's such a big problem, I tell you what. You want me to care? You find someone that he actually discriminated against. Bet you can't. The left views this as war trophies every time they get someone to resign over digging something up from the past. Because sometimes, guess what? People say stupid stuff. Sometimes as a bad joke, sometimes as an attention getter, or for whatever reason. Look, this happened to me. Another network went after me when I was in the Trump administration in 2017 and would not rest until I was thrown out over something I said 12 years ago on a podcast. And if I had known then what I know now, I would have told everybody to get bent and I wouldn't have resigned. But you know what? I got them back by smashing their ratings many nights here on Newsmax. We smashed them because people like you viewers at home, who I appreciate, you're so over this character assassination garbage. We live in a society where you have to be able to spill milk. You have to be able to make mistakes. You can apologize for it and move on. You can't reduce someone's 25 years on this planet to a 30-second soundbite or a single tweet. And I think most Americans agree with me because Elon actually tweeted out a poll to his following, which, by the way, is the size of 2/3 the population of America. And they said almost 80-20, bring him back. This is what I'm talking about. This is the way. And today, after Vance tweeted out, J.D. Vance, that we should bring him back, Trump was asked about it, and he agreed.
If the vice president said that, did you say that? I'm with the vice president.
That's how you debate. You want to own the libs? Do it. You take away any consequences to their perpetual whining and screaming, and they'll just have nothing else to do. Look, this kid is clearly good at something. Otherwise, Elon wouldn't have hired him in the first place, okay? Democrats don't actually give a hoot about these tweets, let's be honest. But this is how they do it. This is how they oppose Republicans. They always do this with the most virtue signaling tone. Oh, we have questions, saying here, and they said in one part, the resignation of Elez, that's the kid, comes amid growing questions from lawmakers and former federal government employees about the dozens of staffers Musk has tapped to help him pursue aggressive cost trimming and in some cases attempt to dismantle his entire agencies. Oh, you got questions, Congress people? Me too. Starting with, who'd you pay the $17 million in hush money to, Congress? Why are you keeping that secret? I don't know. Who was the other dude having gay sex in the Senate briefing room? Still don't know who that is. You know what? Better yet, why did Whoopi Goldberg not lose her job for this?
The Holocaust isn't about race.
No.
It's not about race.
No, it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but
going
it's
after
not, it's
Jews
not about
and
race.
gypsies
But these are two
Romas.
white groups of people.
Now, she was suspended, but they brought her right back. And I didn't hear a peep from Democrats then. No congressman had questions for her. Why did Democrats freak out about Megyn Kelly? She simply asked an honest question because she did not understand why blackface was so offensive to some people. And Democrats went nuts because it was Megyn Kelly. But there was no outrage when Ralph Northam, Jimmy Kimmel, Joy Behar, Justin Trudeau actually wore blackface. They didn't resign. They weren't fired, which shows that it's totally manufactured. How about Joe Biden?
Y'all back in chains.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Yeah, in fact, Oprah went on TV, propped him up before she flip-flopped and then supported Kamala Harris, of course. Eric Adams.
Every day in the police department, I kicked those crackers' man. I was unbelievable in the police department when you keep one of the blacks in law enforcement.
Look, here's the litmus test of racism. If you took a different race and even an equal race slur to another race and inserted that one in there, as if Eric Adams had been white, would it have been racist? We know the answer to this one. Therefore, it's racist. No Democrat had any problem with him until he started kicking out illegal immigrants out of New York City. Or Ayanna Pressley.
I am so tired of white men failing up. We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice.
What she meant by that was, she doesn't want black, brown, Muslims, or queers to coming to the table with Republican ideas. And Joe Biden made this super clear, too.
Problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump and you ain't black.
It's a one-way street for Democrats because they want blind allegiances. Democrats assume, based on the color of your skin or who you sleep with, that you should be loyal to them and only them because otherwise you're racist. And if you don't think like that, they tell you that you're a white supremacist, even if you're black, like they did to Larry Elder. Or if you're brown, they think you're too stupid. Remember when George Packer, a staff writer for The Atlantic, went on MSNBC and basically said, Trump's getting diverse vote because they're uneducated.
But the sharpest divide in our politics today is education. It's whether you have a college degree or not. That is the likeliest determinant of whether you're going to vote Republican or Democratic. And that's why we're seeing larger numbers, and I met some of them in Western Pennsylvania, of Latinos and black voters who are moving toward Trump.
Don't recall any congressman having questions for that guy. Look, I'm not celebrating this young Doge staffer's statements, so chill out, okay? I'm just saying that you don't have the right to not be offended. And just because somebody did offend you, real or fake outrage or whatever, doesn't mean you should ruin a 25-year-old kid's life. Because seriously, folks, raise your hand if you haven't said something at some point in your life, even behind closed doors, that if it wasn't on the front page of every newspaper right now, they wouldn't be screaming to high heaven for your head. Because that's what's happening here. One person from Boston University literally called for Doge employees dead or alive. That person should probably be fired. Not the guy who said, his tweet was that he said I was racist before it was cool. I mean, stupid thing to say. Does anybody get hurt from that? No. Maybe your feelings. I mean, it's unbelievable. The answer to speech you don't agree with is more speech. The people I want to exclude from the ideas table are people with ideas that will make me less prosperous, less safe, and more governed. Not by race. Because I care more about your actions, more about than about some stupid tweet. And if all these Democrats, with all their resources in the media, if they can't find someone, a real person, a real incident this poor kid actually discriminated against, then I'm with Trump. I say bring him back. Look, I have no problem. I will stand up and say it. The irony is that this whole thing is that the federal workers, their unions, their bureaucrats, they just cheered while their colleagues got fired for not getting a vaccine. That was totally fine. The same people that cheered and screamed, and now they're happy that they're firing this young federal worker for something he said on Twitter. But those same people, the same people who want them fired, unvaccinated, and this kid, you can't fire them for wasting our taxpayer money. Apparently that's a problem. And that, ladies and gentlemen, scholars and professors, is why I think this kid should get his job back. Because I know it will drive the liberals insane. Do it.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.